I don't know. Ooh, okay. There we go.
Okay, though.
Is that okay? All right. There we go. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. So just hold tight and feel free to take a look at our chat, make sure that's working, and say hello. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in 1 minute. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to our K-2 technology overview. We're so excited to have you here. We're going to take a few minutes and introduce ourselves and welcome you, and then we'll get started. Dr. Adams, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret Adams. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and we are so glad to have all the families. This is our first time on YouTube, so bear with us. We are learning, but we are glad to share information with you about how the tools your children will be using in technology with their teachers. And we have a great digital literacy team here tonight, all the teachers and our library media specialists who will be sharing and introduce themselves and are helping us in these uncharted times as we're learning lots about how to use technology for learning. And we'll continue, we promise, to get better and better each day and feel we are growing and learning as well as your students. Go ahead, Mel.
All right. So we're going to take a minute to introduce ourselves. So I'm Melanie Acevedo. I am the personalized learning instructional specialist for the elementary schools. And Miss Linsky, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Linsky. I teach digital literacy at Lincoln and Horace Mann.
Mr. Stefano?
Hi everyone, I'm Miss DeStefano and I'm the Library Media Specialist at Winthrop, Roosevelt, Horace Mann, and the Lincoln Schools. Miss Edmonds?
Hello, everyone. My name is Olga Edmonds, and I'm the Library Media and Digital Literacy Specialist. I'm going to be teaching at the Franklin School at Hoover and Winthrop.
And Miss Regoli.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Regoli. I am a digital literacy teacher at the Winthrop and at the Horace Mann.
And Miss Jones, who's also serving as our chat moderator this evening.
Hello, my name is Susan Jones. I am currently teaching digital literacy at the Roosevelt School, but over the last couple of years have taught digital literacy in some capacity in all of the elementary schools.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So a little bit about our format tonight. We're going to do some kind of presenting, and then we're going to stop and let you guys ask questions in the chat. And then I'll answer some of those questions or go through any of those questions, and then we'll repeat. And so the topics we're going to cover this evening are how to get help and access teacher information, Clever, Google Meets, Google Classroom, and then we're going to review how to get help. And we have a short exit ticket that we're going to ask that you fill out after this evening. So let's start with how do we get help? So many of you have figured this out or have found ways to contact us. And we want to make sure that you all know that there is a system in place to get help. So if you are stuck, if you are struggling, please don't suffer in silence. We are all here to help you. So the first thing I want you to think about is this tree. The superintendent shared it in her last newsletter. So when I go to, I lost my screen. So when I go to this Melrose Tech Help Bitly, I get my, oh boy. I lost my screen. I get this document here. Try that. So I get this document here that has a tree. The green items are the items that are kind of for our tech help desk in terms of like hardware and wires and pliers and those kinds of things. Those are things that you'll email the IT support. The red items here are for your classroom teacher. So if you email your classroom teacher, they'll be able to help you. And then these yellow items here are the things that we can help you with, the things that our team is responsible for. So if you are stuck with Google Classroom or getting on your Google Meet or any of those things, you can click on this form. And it's branched. So if you choose that you're an elementary parent, it will give us all the information we need to be able to help you, so you won't have to go back and forth in email. So filling out this form is really important so that we can make sure that we can get you the help that you need in the most efficient way. So as long as you fill out all of the required fields, we'll have the information that we need in order to help and support you. So that's one way that you can get help from the people that are on this call here. And then if you are stuck with a borrowed Chromebook or you're having login issues or any of those things, you'll want to contact the IT department in the green box over here. So they've added 2 new buttons to the Melrose Schools webpage itself. And when we think about our icons down at the bottom, there's 2 new buttons here. This one right here is the Tech Help Desk, the yellow arrow. And then this one is the Remote Learning Resources. And I'll talk about both of those in a moment. So when I go to the Melrose website, I'm going to scroll down under the giant finger that's telling me that Melrose Public Schools wants me, and I'll get to my buttons. And on the buttons down here, I have the Tech Help Desk right here, and I have the remote learning resources here. So if I click on that Tech Help Desk, it will bring me to that same document. The other thing that I want to show you, and I close my page, are these remote learning resources. So Tech Help Desk is going to get you that tree. Remote learning resources is our website that we've created in order to help you find your teacher information much more quickly. So if you go to this website from the remote learning resources, everyone here is in elementary school, but if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler, so if you click on elementary schools, and let's just say you want to go to the Lincoln School and you're in Miss Tarpey's class. I know her landing page is nice and easy to organize. You will see something called a landing page. And the landing page is where you'll find your one-stop shop for everything that you need for your classroom. So on Miss Tarpey's page here, you can see she has a little welcome message. She has her daily schedule, her email, any announcements that they're going to have, the Google Classroom code, their login for Epic, so the resources they're going to use, right here in one place. And here is another example of a landing page. So this is a first grade teacher at the Hoover School. She's chosen to make a Bitmoji classroom. Those are both going to have all of the information that you need as a parent or your students need as a learner in order to access the resources that they have. So you might see a landing page that looks like this, or you might see a landing page that looks like this. Either way, they will give you the same kinds of information. So here, Ms. Waite has a Meet the Teacher slide. She has her daily schedule, her newsletters, how her calendar, and then she has a Help Me button that will bring her to the bring you to some help, either her email or another way that you can contact her for help. So at this point, I want to have you add some things to the chat, any questions you have, and we will start to address those. So Ms. Jones, do you want to start sharing some of the things from the chat that we can start to figure out?
So right now there's a comment in the chat that is helpful feedback that they're referring to the slides on the websites that are not mobile friendly. So they're reporting that they're not able to access what's on the slides for mobile devices, and thinking about how that might be more easily shared. So I think I have an understanding about what they're referring to, which I think we can talk more about. Or if I don't know if you have suggestions on ways you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, that's helpful feedback in that we can think about how do we reimagine that tech help section to be a little bit more mobile friendly.
Yeah, I know that myself, when I am clicking on a link that's embedded in a Google form, I have to long press on that link, and it prompts me then to open link. It doesn't just kind of go right away, which can be frustrating. So we can definitely circle back to that.
Any other questions or thoughts about making the connection between kind of the Melrose page to the distance learning website to the student's classroom page, which is called their landing page, or ideas about how to get help.
I'm not seeing anything, but maybe we should just give it 1 sec because there is a slight delay. I think you can move forward.
All right, so we're going to talk about Clever next. So Clever is our next kind of stop on our tour through technology here. So Clever is our single sign-on portal for students. And you may have noticed that there was a little bit of an issue towards the beginning of the week. We absolutely knew that we were getting lots of family feedback that Clever was not connecting and not authenticating. So if we are thinking about the ideas that Clever is our single sign-on. So kids are going to have their Google account, which will attach them to all of their Clever portal apps. So you can see here, this is a teacher page. One of the students in Miss Ingalls' second grade class this year, you can see that Miss Ingalls has a teacher page up at the top where she can put specific things for her students and her class. And then we have our Google tools so that we access our Google Classroom and our Google Drive. And then we have our program links. So Lexia and Pearson Realize, which is now Savas, iReady, IXL, Symphony, and typing.com for when the kids get to second grade. So the easiest way to access Clever is to go clever.com. I forgot to sign myself out. Let's try that again. So if I click on or type in this link here, clever.com/in/Melrose Schools, and I'm going to share these slides with you at the end of the presentation, so you'll have all of the clickable links. I just wanted to make sure that you paid attention to the walkthroughs, which will not be shared on the slides. So if you go to clever.com/in/Melrose Schools, it will bring you to this page here. I'm going to log in with Google. And it's going to authenticate my account and bring me right to my Clever tools. And so from there, I can then go to my Google Classroom. This is my teacher Google Classroom, so please excuse the fact that there are lots of classes, and it takes a minute to load. So you can see that I have multiple Google Classrooms. Your students will not have anywhere near as many. Or I could go to a link, go to a website. So if I wanted to go here to IXL, I could go to my IXL. It will sign me in. And I will get to the page that I need to get to. Most of the students will get to a page that looks like this. It'll have their IXL learning, and then it will allow them to click on their grade. And their teacher will tell them usually which ones of these assignments that they want them to work on. So IXL is one of our programs that we use as a district. Here is Lexia is another program we use as a district, especially in our younger grades. So your students will probably have information coming from their teacher relatively soon, maybe not this week, but in the near future, about Lexia. IXL is something that we use with our youngest learners, and Symphony Math is something that we use with our youngest learners. If your child is in first or second grade, we'll be using iReady for assessments in order to do our beginning of the year assessing completely online. And then once children get to second grade with their digital literacy teacher, they will be able to get to their typing.com account as well. We've also included some links down here like our Destiny card catalog, our online catalog, which has our databases and other resources, and then a quick link to the Melrose Public Schools website. So Clever is a really handy place to start, and making sure that students are being able to access all of their information from one single sign-on, so they don't have to remember all these other passwords. Miss Jones, do we have, it looks like the chat is very busy. So let's talk Clever for a minute.
So many of the questions that are popping up in the chat are actually Google Meet related.
Okay.
Google Meet related and landing pages. So some people have reported some issues accessing landing pages for or not being able to open landing pages, or having trouble getting the links to the landing pages. The majority of the questions are about accessing meets, finding the meet links, and sorry, they're coming in fast, so I'm just kind of scrolling through. Looking at, so also one question that I'm seeing now is about the kind of distinguishing the difference in purpose of Clever versus Google Classroom.
Sure.
And is this presentation being recorded so it can be shared?
That is the intent. I believe it is. And that's why we're running it through YouTube Live. So I'm hoping that that's what's happening. I did press the record button when we started. So I'm hoping that is what's happening. We're doing this again for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade on Monday. So that presentation is going to be very similar. And I will make sure that if this one doesn't record, that we figure out how to make sure that one does.
One other comment I think that would be helpful to address is on the school issued Chromebooks, the difference in logging in, because that process is different when logging in with a badge via versus clicking on sign in with different accounts. So maybe we should clarify that.
Okay. So I'm going to go back. I logged myself out so that we can go back to that clever.com/in/Melrose Schools. And that will bring you to what you would see for your Clever login. And so if you have a school issued Chromebook, they've all been set so they automatically ask for the badge. If you don't have a badge, and we have a slide, Ms. Jones, maybe we can find that slide and add it to our presentation after we finish tonight, and we can add it there because I didn't think about it. But we have a slide that shows what are the steps to follow if you have a badge versus if you have a Google login. So all kindergarten and first graders received or will receive their badge. It has their badge on one side, which is a QR code that looks like this. And then it has their login information and their Google login written out on the other side. So they have a double-sided login card. If they're choosing to sign in with their badge, they're going to click on Clever Login Badge. I don't have one here, but it's going to ask me if I will allow my camera. And then all I'm going to do is scan my badge. And Clever has made it because they know that children can't really figure out which way is up, down, right, left. They've made it so their badge is kind of, it doesn't matter what direction they hold it. So they can hold their badge in any direction. The camera will recognize it and it will automatically sign them in to Clever. The other way that you can log in is to log in with your Google account. So if I log in with my Google account, if I'm signed into my Google account, which you can see up here, it will automatically log me in. If not, it will ask me for my Google username and my password, and then it will log me in. So Clever is kind of that one-stop shop for all of your apps and programs, where Google Classroom is one of the places where you'll find assignments, you'll find maybe some materials that your student will need. So Google Classroom, and we'll get into that more in a minute, is kind of like your online classroom space. So the things that you would find in your classroom, your folders and your papers and all of this. And they will, that will be the place where your assignments are passed out and turned in. So that's kind of like our workflow, whereas Clever is our one-stop hub for all of our programs. Anything else about Clever before I move on, Miss Jones?
Sorry. I think the conversation has shifted from Clever to Pear Deck, but I just noticed one question. Do you have to go through Clever and then into Google Classroom? We did a Flipgrid and it stayed recorded, but it doesn't show that it's turned on. Same with Pear Deck. I can't figure out how to turn it in. The conversation in the chat is looking at kind of logistics of kind of accessing all those other apps once they're kind of logged in. And yeah, that's kind of the status of the chat at the moment.
Okay. So one of the things we're going to keep going when we get to Google Classroom, we'll talk a little bit about Pear Deck. I have an example Pear Deck in there for you to be able to see and how that works in terms of using the assignment and doing the assignment and then turning it back in. So before we talk about Pear Deck, this is also in the slides. This is a Clever handout for families. You might have seen it go home from your principals. It has lots of handy tips on there. It has a video to show if you're, let's say you let your student use your device to do their schoolwork. You can add what's called a Chrome profile so that they could be zoomed into their own Google account and not being able to access any of yours. And there's a video here that shows you how to do that. And then we'll start talking about Google Meet. So Google Meet is what you'll see if your student is kindergarten and first grade. Google Meet is where they were yesterday. So where they had their kind of live synchronous class meeting. It's a place where you can see all your students and teachers in real time. So kindergarten and first grade, because they're hybrid, will have morning meetings every day. And so the whole group will come together. So there'll be students in the classroom and there'll be students at home, and they'll come together on a Google Meet in order to have a community meeting. And then at the end of the day, the same thing will happen. It's a place where their students and teachers work in real time. So some of the assignments you might have seen today, if you were in cohort 2, were asynchronous assignments. So asynchronous means that you're doing things on your own time and working through assignments at your own pace, whereas synchronous means that it's happening live time. So synchronous could be on a Google Meet. It could be what's happening in the classroom, but it's happening live right now. And we're going to share some extensions that will help enhance Google Meets, and we'll talk about those more in depth at a while. So when you join Google Meet, the first thing you'll see, no matter what way you access the Google Meet, most teachers have either had students access through their Google Classroom, and I'll show you what that looks like, or they've shared a link and they've accessed it that way. So what you'll see is the Google Meet join screen. You can choose to go in with your microphone on or camera on. And you can also choose to join now. So then you'll click on the join now. If you're an adult and you're working on a Google Meet, there's also options to call in or use just audio, but we're encouraging the students to come in and be able to see their classmates and participate that way. So you would click this join now button. Once they get to Google Meet, you'll see two very important things. So you'll see the participants up here where there is, it'll list the people in the meet, and you'll see the chat. The chat is where students or teachers will write, kind of like our chat box here. I've seen lately teachers dropping links in the chat because it's hard for students to open a new tab and then find the meet to see their teacher again. So they'll drop a link in the chat and have the students click on the blue letters. And then down here are your main controls. So here you have your mute button. Here you have your hang up button, and here you have your camera button that will turn on and off. This is super helpful, especially if you're having a hard time hearing. You can turn captions on. It will tell you who is saying what sentences. And then present now is what teachers are using in order to present their information or present their screen. Here in the bottom, this is always, anytime you see this online, this is kind of just good tech tip tool. Anytime you see the three dots in that snowman formation or snow person formation, it tells me there's more here. So there's more options, there's more things for me to see, more settings. If you're struggling with hearing, sometimes those settings will be a good place to help. And making sure that your microphone and your camera are both coming from the same location. So if students are using headphones, and if I click on the settings, I can sometimes see that students' audio is coming out of their computer, but their microphone is picking up the sound. So it might present a little bit of an echo. So if you're trying to troubleshoot those settings buttons, is a good place to start. So two extensions we highly recommend are Nod and Grid View. Grid View allows students to see everybody in their class, and in K1 and 2, that's especially important since teachers are trying to do lots of things and to build community. So we want to make sure that students can see each other. And then the Nod extension is awesome. It is probably one of my favorites these days. It allows students to have nonverbal, non-typing reactions to what's being said. So as long as the student and the teacher both have Nod, and all of our teachers have downloaded it as of now, so everyone has Nod. The student can give nonverbal reactions like thumbs up, thumbs down. They can raise their hand. They can clap for their friends. Excuse me. They can celebrate. So it's a really cool kind of extension, and it's very minimal. It only gives the kids 6 choices. So it's not like they're going to be scrolling through that all day and not paying attention to what's happening in the classroom. So when you click here, when you get the slides, like I said, at the end of this presentation, you'll have the slides, and we'll put them in the comments of the YouTube video. The directions for that will be here. So if you click on it, you'll get a page that has all of the extensions that we recommend for students. Here is the Grid View extension. Here is the Nod extension. And then I'm using an extension tonight, and most teachers are using it, and we're working with students more in the upper grades, but you could try it with the younger friends using Duelist. And what Duelist allows is it allows you to have the meet on one side of the screen and slides on the other if they're working with Pear Deck especially, and that you can make sure that the students can see both at the same time. We found it been incredibly helpful. We used it during our summer school program, even in our first and second grades, and it was very useful for our kids to see everybody. All right. So the only other thing that I want to point out is that in our Google Classrooms, they've added a feature that you can allow students to join a Google Meet from Google Classroom. So what this does is it does not allow a student to join a meet before the teacher has actually gotten there. So it's a little bit of a safety net, and it allows the students to, it gives them an error message that looks like they've done something wrong, but really hasn't. to let them get into the Meet. So they would click on their classroom teacher on their Google Classroom page. They would click on the Meet link here, and then they would click on the Join Meet, just like you would in any other meeting. Miss Jones, what's happening in the chat?
It's hopping in here. I think that in the chat, it's evident families are struggling a little bit with just kind of like the executive functions involved in navigating multiple tabs, right? So you have a running Google Meet, you have running Pear Deck presentation, and trying to make that experience as kind of seamless as it can be, while without losing any of the other features. So for instance, like if you're using dual listen, if you split your screen, if the teacher drops something in the chat isn't necessarily visible when the browser is smaller, right? So thinking about how to troubleshoot when they're trying to sign on to Pear Deck. It sounds like some teachers are just sharing the join code orally. I know some teachers are posting join codes right on the classroom pages, or dropping join links in the chat, multiple ways of getting kids to sign in. So that feedback is helpful because we can bring that back to teachers. And so definitely chat about just kind of like those, like that executive function piece. And there was one other thing. I think we'll touch more on this later when we get to the Google, when we start to dive deeper into Google Classroom, but there has been several comments just about that kind of recurring problem with links being sent to parent accounts, but having to open them in student accounts. So I think we'll touch on that when we get to that kind of communication, the communication piece in classroom. I think that pretty much summarizes everything I haven't responded to in text so far.
So one of the things I wanted to point out, so I opened a Google Meet here, just blank. I've turned my microphone and camera off. So here is the Nod extension. Like I said, both students and teachers need the Nod extension in order for it to work. And it has to be installed and then your Meet completely restarted. So if you're in the middle of a Meet and you go and install it and then you try to come back, it's not going to show until you start a new Meet. Over here is the grid view. And when I hover over these squares, what I get is a set of options that I can choose. One of the comments I saw said that it looks like when you leave the Meet, it comes back to a different view. One of the things you want to look for is if the line is through the grid. If the line is through the grid, then grid view is disabled. But when you open the line, enable grid view by default is something that you should check off, because that means every time that your student opens a Meet, it will always default to grid view. I also saw people talking about the push to talk extension, which is good, but I also wanted to point out in the grid view extension under the bottom toolbar behavior, you can allow the grid to always show the toolbar and resize the grid. So I have mine checked that it's always showing the toolbar so that it's always available for me quickly without it hiding on itself. All right, close that. Close. Okay. So we're gonna jump into Google Classroom. Google Classroom is your virtual classroom space. So this is the equivalent of a teacher walking around and passing out papers and then having students turn it in on their basket or in their folder, whatever the system is that your teacher has worked out in the classroom. So this is kind of the online version of that. It's where teachers can communicate to the students, either whole group or individually. And it's also a place where we could have student to teacher communication. So this is a way for us to kind of enable some of that two-way communication, even though our students don't have email. So it's a way for us to ensure that students are signed in as them before they start to open links. So your K-2 students will have only 2 Google Classrooms this year. Most of them. There will be a few exceptions for ELL students or Title I students or academic intervention students, but the majority of students will have 2 Google Classrooms this year. They will have their regular Google Classroom that their teacher uses, that they may or may not have already experienced in the past couple of days, and then they will have a K-2 specialist Google Classroom. So you might see Google Classroom 2 ways on your student's dashboard. You might see that it's all joined, we're ready to go, like this classroom here. Or if you sign in and you see this blue join button, you're going to want to make sure that you join the class, because that means the teacher has invited you to the class, and we're just waiting for the students to join. So I'm going to, hopefully, nope, it didn't share that screen. All right. Got to love technology. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to share an actual Google Classroom that we have set up in a student account for you. You can see that it does not, one of them is fully ready to go, our demo class. One of them I need to click the join button. If you have old classes, so if you have last year's classes and your teacher has not archived them, you can always go to these 3 dots and you can unenroll, so that the only classes showing on your student's page are the ones that are the most recent. If you unenroll, however, you lose access to the class. So everything is still saved in the student's Google Drive, but if you unenroll, you won't be able to access any of the resources or materials that the teacher might have added to the class. So I'm going to start by going into our demo class, and then I'll come back and we'll show you the specialist class in a moment. So in our demo class, you can see on the classwork page, on the stream where they enter the classroom, this is kind of the discussion board. So you think about it kind of like a bulletin board, or in the upper grades, we call it the hallway locker talk. This is where your teacher might post information to you. So I am here posting, pretending that I'm posting to a student on the first day of school. I said, I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very first Google Meet. And then I linked the Google Meet here. Putting it here, instead of having to open it from a parent email, ensures that the student is logged in as them. And so we're working really hard with the teachers to kind of help with that practice, but it is new. So we want to make sure that we're helping support them. And that's part of our job, is making sure that we help support our classroom teachers so that we can make this as seamless as possible, and without having to send things through parents or families to get to the student. So this is one way that we can do that, is we can post things on the stream, announcements that have links and things like that. The other way that we've encouraged teachers to set up the stream is to place a question box. So this is one stream, one discussion post that I've set up that allows students to ask questions. So kids can't make posts on Google Classroom. We've encouraged teachers to turn that setting off, but we have allowed them to respond to posts that a teacher has said. So we encourage teachers to make this kind of like, do you have a question post, so that students can see that there. Then when I leave the stream and I head into classwork, this is where everything lives, okay? So when I'm looking at my classwork page, I can see some topics. So I have my current work topic, I have a resources topic, and then I have archive work or completed work. This is to help keep things organized. We're helping with keeping organized this year by making sure that only our current assignments are living at the top of the page, so that you don't have to scroll down to find all of the most recent assignments. So they're living here at the top of the page. And that we've encouraged teachers to also make some sort of resources section so that you can find things pretty easily. Most teachers have added the helpful extensions for students in their research section as well. So some of the things to think about when you're thinking about this: if you're seeing a colored in circle, that means that the work was not done, or that it wasn't looked at yet. So there's different icons here. The colored in icons mean that it hasn't been looked at yet, or it's not completed and turned in. And the the grayed out icons mean that they have. So you can see that I have some icons here that I've done and some that I have not. So I'm going to start with this icon down here that kind of looks like a page with a bookmark on it. It has, it's grayed out so I can look at it. It is just, let me do that again. Assignments are listed condensed like this. When I click on them, it expands them. And then if I click view material, I can see that assignment or that material in there. Materials are the little paper with the little bookmarky piece. That just means that it's something for you to see, something for you to look at. It might be a video they want the kids to watch, whatever it is, but it does not need to be turned in. The assignments, however, are things that do need to be turned in. So we were talking about Pear Deck before. So this is a Pear Deck assignment. You know it's an assignment because it has that clipboardy type look. So there needs to be something that needs to come back. You can see that this student has already turned it in, but I'll show you kind of what this looks like in a moment. So if I sign in, so you may or may not have seen Pear Deck with your students. Some teachers are trying to explore it, and some teachers are waiting a little while, and that's okay too. You'll see a couple of things on the slide. So you can see up here that audio is included. So if the student clicks on the headphones, there'll be either some directions or some expanded language from the teacher. So that is there to help them. The icon next to it is Microsoft Immersive Reader. And what that will do is it will read any text on the slides, but not any pictures on the slides. So it would read the text up here, draw a picture, then type or write the words to finish the sentence. So even if your teacher hasn't included audio, the Immersive Reader would pick up the text that's written on the slides. So you can see that here is what it looks like started. I'm going to pretend I went apple picking, so I'm going to draw really quickly. Not a great drawer, but you know, that's fine. So my assignment was to draw a picture, then write or type the words to finish the sentence. So I drew my picture. I'm going to click on the T to type the text. I click anywhere in the space down below, and it gives me a cursor to write with. Over the weekend, I went apple picking. So now I'm done my work. I need to turn it in. My teacher needs to know that I did my work. So I'm going to go close this window and go back to my Google Classroom. And I'm going to go here to view assignment. And I'm going to pretend I didn't turn in my work. I'm going to unsubmit it for a second. When I go to Google Classroom and I open that view assignment button, I have some options here to either add or create or resubmit. So it would say submit if you hadn't turned it in already. And you'll also see down here, there's a conversation started with the student and the teacher. So I turned this in the first time and I said, I didn't do anything with it. I just hit the submit button. And my teacher wrote me a message that said, I don't see any drawing or writing on this page. Please fix it and turn it back. Turn it back in. And then I was able to write a message to my teacher that said, I'm sorry, I went too fast. I fixed it and turned it back in. So let's pretend I'm going to turn it back in. So I click resubmit. I mark as done. And and I can write a message to my teacher. Thank you for the feedback. Now, we may not be having kindergartners and first graders write messages. However, this is a place where you can have that two-way conversation without going through your email. So the students are getting the practice, and the teacher is able to kind of keep that two-way line of communication open. Here is where you would write comments to the entire class. So if you wanted the whole class to see a comment, that is where you would write it. We encourage teachers to use these private comments when they're trying to give feedback to students, because then it's more personal. It's as if writing a comment on a paper and then turning it back in. So we're going to jump over to the other Google Classroom. And we're going to join that one. So you can see it's not listed yet in my list here because I haven't actually joined. I'm not actually enrolled in the classroom yet. So I'm going to go over to classes and I'm going to click on this blue join button. And now you can see that I have my specialist Google Classroom up. And the specialists have decided that we are going to, or they are going to, ensure that the students have access to just one specialist Google Classroom. So the teachers have said, to make it easier on the students, we're all going to share a Google Classroom so that they are only focusing on one place. So there's one specialist Google Classroom for K-2. It will only have your students' work on it, but it will have the work for all of their specials. So what we've done to organize this page is we have our art with, and we'll fill in the teachers' names here. Resources will be this top piece of every topic, and then there'll be the most recent assignment would go here. Okay. So now, at the bottom, I can't see that part because there's nothing there. At the bottom, what we've done is we've made an old work section for every class without these pictures so that the students know that it's the old PE work or the old music work. It is not the most common work. The way topics work in Google Classroom is it only works if there's something posted in them. So you can only see what there is posted. If I go here to view my work, I can see everything that I have that's assigned and due in all of my classes, in my my classes that I'm in that classroom for. Or if I want to see all of my work, let's say I want to see what's due for the week, I can go here to my to-do section, and that will take my work from all of my Google Classrooms and compile them into one place so I can make almost like a checklist of what needs to get done during the week. So that's a helpful tool that they've just added recently to help support remote learning. So I have been talking a lot. Is there, Ms. Jones, where do we want to start in the chat?
So one thing, a question that just came up was about whether or not students got notifications when private comments were left for them. So I put in a comment that, the notification feature is available in the mobile apps, but not on the computer, and that we typically teach them how to find that icon that signals that they have feedback waiting. So I don't know if you've already showed that because I've had my eyes on the chat, but
yeah, I can go back there.
I don't know if you want to.
So let me go back to the other classroom. Thank you. I forgot about that. So if I go to my other classroom where I've done some practice kind of private comments and things like that, if I go to the view my work section, you can see some icons next to the work. And so you'll see on that over the weekend I assignment, there's a little square with a 3. And that square tells me that there are private comments there. There are something for me to look at. So I'm going to open it up, and right there I can see my comments right from my teacher and myself, and we can have that conversation there. And then when I open up the view details, I can continue adding to that conversation. That's also where you'll see, when you go to view my work, you might see scores or feedback scores. That means that the student has met expectations, or maybe there's a comment for the student to go back and revise. Thank you for reminding me of that, Ms. Jones. Other questions we want to address in the chat?
I've responded to most of the questions. There's some discussion about whether or not teachers will be consistently attaching due dates to their work. But other than that, I think, answered most of the questions that have come up. If I've missed your question or we haven't addressed it yet for something that we've talked about, definitely drop it back in the chat.
All right. So we're going to start wrapping up unless there's any other Google Classroom questions. And I'm at least learning the...
So I just saw a question come up about whether or not teachers are encouraged to use the stream for regular communication for kids. And I would say we definitely have tried to push that message with teachers to really utilize those communication channels with their students. I know myself as a parent, I have 3 children who attend Melrose schools. And I know as I've been here logged in with your kids or staff work, their teachers have been emailing things to me that have gone several hours have gone by before I've been able to relay messages to them or to share materials with them. So I have talked to teachers at length about that because I feel that struggle as a parent. So hopefully we'll start to see that increase significantly this year. Prior to the spring, we didn't really have as strong of a need to utilize that. So, but we've definitely tried to encourage that from here on out.
All right. So the other question I just saw pop up is about email addresses. So I think it's a little bit confusing with email because the student's Google username is their email address. But if you go to gmail.com, it will tell you to contact an administrator because we did not choose to turn on elementary email. I know some districts have, but our district has decided that email gets turned on in 6th grade. As of right now, that's our kind of policy and procedure. So that even though it looks like an email address and you're like, well, why am I getting all these emails if they can just email my child? There isn't really an email attached to that. It would be, you would be sending it to basically an address that doesn't exist yet. All right. So I just want to review one more time how you get help if you need it. I've turned this document into a bit.ly, so Melrose Tech Help, and thank you for that feedback about not being mobile friendly. We'll try to work on that and continue figuring that piece out. So the bit.ly is here, bit.ly/Melrose Tech Help, capital M, capital T, capital H. You'll choose the path that best meets your needs, and then submit the right form. So you're either going to submit an email to the IT department and they're going to fix your Chromebook. They're going to help you get Wi-Fi. They're going to help with connectivity issues, any of those kinds of things. Or if it's an instructional issue, you'll submit the Google form to the digital literacy team or the media literacy team, and we'll be able to get help there. And then if it's one of these 4 things, forgetting your Google password, looking for an assignment, needing help finding something in Google Classroom, or having a question about an assignment, those are the things that you will be submitting to your classroom teacher as well. So there's those 2 new icons that are on our on our website. What we have created, so our team has spent many kind of thinking about what are those things that kids need most in order to be successful in remote learning. And so we've created these 10 lessons of tech calendars. And what those do, if you click on them, they bring you to a presentation view of a slide. We have Google Slides here. If you're just looking for a visual kind of walkthrough of whatever that topic is. And we have screencasts that our team has made to help kind of with those more modeling of what it is. So we wanted to make sure that we shared those with you as well. I'm sure they'll be coming from teachers as well, but they are there as resources for families during this time. And then we just wanted to thank you as our team. This is how you contact all of us. These are our emails. We are really looking forward to trying and help make this our best kind of year as we can. Knowing that there'll be bumps along the way, knowing that we'll be able to learn from our mistakes as we go, and having events like this where we can help also support our families so that we can all be successful. So the slide presentation and the exit ticket are going to be put in the chat. This is one of our favorite memes. One does not simply tell kindergarten students to log in. This is kind of the thing that makes us laugh when we start teaching our kindergartners how to use Chromebooks. And how do we, we just can't tell them, oh, go log into your Google Classroom. We know there are lots of steps involved. So this is one of our favorite memes that we wanted to share with you tonight. So our slides presentation is going to be dropped in the chat, as well as an exit ticket. It's just a few questions that we are looking for some feedback on how the first couple of days have gone, things that you've learned from this presentation, things you would like to continue to learn as we move forward. But thank you all so very much. I am hoping this recorded and I'm able to send it out. If not, like I said, we are doing another presentation on Monday for the 3 to 5 crowd, and I will make sure that that one is recorded. Any final questions?
Melanie, I would just make a quick note that the links are not hyperlinking in the chat. So if people are going to fill out that exit ticket, they just have to kind of copy and paste it into their browser.
They are linked on the slides. So once they open the slides, they link right there. So if you try to open the slides, they will definitely link there as well. Thank you all so very much. We are looking forward to a great year. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you need help with anything. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.